This episode of the Leading Ladies podcast is proudly sponsored by Dutton Gregory Solicitors. After 75 years building an enviable reputation for its legal services on the South Coast, Dutton Gregory has responded to the demand of its national property clients and opened a new office in the city centre of Liverpool. From property purchase, development and lettings to the commercial needs of companies and personal circumstances, find out all about Dutton Gregory's full range of legal services and friendly solicitors at duttongregory.co.uk. Hi and welcome to Spill the Tea with LLIB. I'm Cal.
And I'm Claire.
And together we founded the incredible platform that is Leading Ladies in Business, a platform that inspires and supports female business women across the globe.
Welcome to Spill the Tea with LLIB. We're so excited to have you with us today. It's Rachel, everybody. Yay! Well done to all of you who guessed correctly over on social media. The debate was huge and the excitement was real. So Rachel, tell us about your journey. Tell us about where you're up to now and what that's been like for you.
Okay, well, thank you, Claire and Cal, for having me. It's so great to be here and be involved in the first few episodes of the podcast, and congratulations.
Oh, we're so excited to have you.
Oh, God. So, what was the question?
I'm so excited we forgot the questions, everybody.
I'll just read the board again. Hang on a second.
We'll do a quick refresh and we are on. Tell us about your journey as a female founder and entrepreneur so far. How did that begin and what's that journey look like for you?
Okay.
Spill the tea.
Okay, thanks, ladies. So, so I had a successful corporate career for 13 years before I did what I do now. And basically my story is about burnout. So having gone through that kind of health experience myself, that made me kind of take stock of everything and basically change career to do what I do now. So I'm now a nutritionist and functional medicine practitioner. I run a functional medicine clinic called Renutrition and help tired and wide women who are struggling with that burnout to wake up feeling energized, thinking clearly and able to kind of fulfill their true potential. So really it was kind of going through my own experience of that and then retraining, setting up a business that's brought me where I am today in a really quick nutshell.
Perfect. And what if there's anybody out there who's sort of struggling with burnout and they might not know what that looks like, can you describe what burnout can look like or feel like for people?
Yeah, I mean, we're all different, aren't we?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole premise of functional medicine, that is our own individuality. So it can look different for different people. I think for me, it was almost like trying to kind of still look like myself on the outside, but feeling different on the inside. And I think they're the types, so that's hard to spot in somebody else.
Yeah.
But in yourself, I think it's things like changes in your own patterns and behaviour. So for example, I started to withdraw socially and I just kind of kept going work, and then sort of letting friends down and retreating myself a little bit. And then physically, it was the typical symptoms of like being tired and wired. So kind of constantly having the mind buzzing and that kind of anxious feeling of the to-do list. And then feeling that like sense of exhaustion where, you're struggling to sleep. And then the next day you can't get yourself going again. Until the point where you actually do kind of like literally burn out, where you can't function anymore. But little things were happening before that. So I was putting on weight, I was feeling stressed. Female symptoms, so like periods and things went a bit on the fritz, IBS. So there's lots of physical symptoms that people don't necessarily associate with burnout because you kind of think, oh, tired and wired, that makes sense. It's stress. But then all these other physical things are happening that could be actually just linked to that. So I don't know if that gives you really a precise answer because it can be so different for everybody, but
yeah,
a lot can be going on.
Yeah. And what then are the top tips for dealing with burnout? You know, if anyone's out there experiencing those types of symptoms and they've not necessarily thought that was burnout before, what type of things can people do to support themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for burnout, they define it in 3 ways. So 1 is emotional exhaustion. 2 is kind of a cynicism, so what's going around, a depersonalization. And 3 is, I can't remember. Sorry, the brain fog is definitely one of the symptoms.
I love that. So we'll add that to the captions of this podcast, the 3. We got two. We're going to add a third one, but you've got to watch the podcast.
Come back to us on social media for the third one.
As well. I like something to remind myself. I just remembered number 3. It's reduced performance.
do you find that most female entrepreneurs, so our next question for you would be the challenges that you faced as a female founder, but are you seeing this more with female founders now who, I suppose, we just accept stress? I know it's just something that comes with being a female founder.
Yeah.
So what is your experience around that as a female founder? And also, you know, is that something that you're seeing a lot, you know, with the female founders around you?
Yeah, and well, it's a challenge, and I know that you ask your guests what their biggest challenges are that they face, and that's would be my answer. I think that like once you've been burnt out, it's constantly how do you make sure you don't end up back there again, and then you know managing that on a day-to-day basis. And I did think it would be like a huge irony to kind of be helping people with burnout and then to burn out myself. So it is a challenge to manage that. And then to kind of answer Carl's question from before in terms of how to help yourself. So I developed what's called my mood boosting method with like 4 different pillars in it to kind of help people to combat burnout. And they are nourish, restore, engage and reframe. So there's a whole aspect of like lifestyle and the way you think that can actually help you prevent burnout. So stress depletes us of lots of nutrients. So one of the ways you can help yourself is to keep, you know, wherever possible, a nutrient dense diet, which is a real challenge when you're stressed, because when you're stressed, you're naturally gonna eat, you know, poorly. The two things are linked.
Yeah.
So. And then it perpetuates the cycle then. So just little simple things like, for example, smoothies that you can grab where you can just pack some fruit and veg in there to kind of up your vitamin C level will help give you that bit of extra resilience when it comes to burnout. And then restore is obviously you know, we all know about self-care. It's kind of talked about so much, isn't it? And it's almost become something to do on the to-do list. But it can just literally be as simple as taking 5 minutes to just breathe. You know, making sure you set yourself like a nice routine for going to bed of an evening to try and give yourself the best chance for some good night's sleep. And then engage is all about like re-engaging when you feel like it, depending on what stage of burnout you're at, because there are different stages of burnout. You know, you can kind of be going on and keep coping well. Then there's I kind of class it as wired, tired and wired, and then tired. So the wired people are the ones who are kind of anxious. It might not be like affecting them physically very much, but they just kind of go. Tired and wired.
I feel seen.
She knows.
Tired and wired then is in the middle where you're still feeling a bit wired, but it's also starting to affect you. So you are feeling fatigued. And then tired then is the kind of total exhaustion that you get with burnout. So it is 3 stages, and it's not necessarily sequential either. But in those states, there's different things going on with your stress hormones in the body. So like the middle state, you're producing a lot more cortisol, whereas in the final state, you're actually producing a lot less, which is why you kind of lose your get up and go. And it's really important to understand which stage you're at in terms of adopting that support. So when I say re-engage, it's all about then when you feel like re-engaging. So if you're stage 3, you might need to hibernate for a couple of weeks to feel a bit better. You know, it's not about going out there and starting marathon training or something like that. But it can be, if you notice you've started to disengage, it can be helpful to just start doing a few little things to re-engage. And then the final step is about reframe. So that's kind of deeper work where you've got limiting beliefs that might have just made you a bit vulnerable to burnout in the first place. It's kind of the thing we would do last, because it is kind of like prevention or, you know, reoccurrence prevention. So
yeah, it sounds really interesting that you can have that, you know, that those self-limiting beliefs can actually be one of the causes of, you know, do we work so hard to prove to others that we are successful, you know, and do we work so hard and are so driven and passionate to prove that we made the right choices in leaving a business, you know? So personally, you know, my dad was very, very disappointed when I left teaching, because I'd left a secure job and a pension. And for someone who'd worked really, really hard to put his children through university, he's a black taxi driver, you know, he was so proud of that career that when I gave up teaching, he wasn't proud of the next stage. You know, he was very, very sad about that. And I worked extremely hard to not be a letdown,
Yeah.
you know, to not, you know, it was almost like this cannot fail. Like there's not another option. You know, I've got to prove to everyone else that I've made the right choice and not let this impact my family negatively. So totally.
That's a lot of pressure you're putting on yourself as well, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is. And I think that there's lots of women out there who start businesses who, you know, who are in the same boat with that, you know, this cannot fail. I've got to do well. I've given up so much to be here. And as women, we shoulder a lot of responsibility around the decisions, don't we, that we make.
It's quite funny saying that, because the majority of women go into business because they've got no other choice as well. So you really can't have that full-time position that we did previously before having children. But yet we're led to believe that that's something that, you know, we should be working really, really hard to prove, when actually we could never slot back into our lives before we had children, because it's just not doable.
Yeah. And it's why women burn out more than men do, basically, because we have and it happens around a certain age typically, because of the different things that we're trying to balance. And it's a combination of what you described there about being the high achiever, wanting to always be like, you know, successful, whether it's in a corporate career or then setting up your own business, because you're putting the same values on yourself in either scenario. But then it's also then about like the glass ceiling we face environmentally because of our gender. That's just the way it is at the moment. No matter how much the gap is trying to close, it still exists. And then it all comes at a time of life where we're making big decisions about starting a family, juggling the career. Can we do it all? And then,
and we're fed this line, aren't we, that, you know, yes, you can have your cake and eat it. You're like, oh God, how? Some days, how? Like, where's the cake? Where's the cake?
Because the cake's not going to help with the burnout.
No, darn it.
Although I'm thinking we should have brought cake.
All the cake. So what's the biggest challenge that you've faced as a woman in business so far?
And I think it's that very subject is balancing my own. When you're helping other people, it's very hard to help yourself at the same time.
That's so true.
And that's a daily challenge. I wouldn't even say it's my biggest challenge. It's just like an ongoing challenge. It's there all the time. And even little things like putting pressure on yourself in the health and wellness industry to look a certain way as well. Like I think I should, you know, appear in this way because that's how, you know, because I'm, you know, leading where others follow, and I need to look a certain way and be a certain size and glow and all that's pressure that, you know, and that is a challenge when you're helping other people. And sometimes you can just give. And then suddenly realize, like, all this stuff I'm talking about, I'm not actually doing myself.
Yeah, but that's so true across. So, I'm sure everybody watching will relate to that. You know, being a counsellor, I give and give and give, and sometimes it takes you to tell me to stop and to start taking my own advice around, you know, resting and just not taking on other people's, you know, worries so much. And you're absolutely spot on, you know, with the image that comes with the profession. If you are in a certain job, you are expected to look a certain way. And I think that needs to stop as well. That's one of the best things about our networking, because you can turn up as you and you can wear your pumps, or, you know, you can pop your hair up, you know, you can do just come as you. We just want you, you know, the woman behind the business. You don't have to. I find it really uncomfortable sometimes, you know, wearing, if I'm getting dressed up, if I feel like I have to get dressed up for a networking event, and I'm putting, you know, a suit on and a blazer and a pop heels on, and, you know, walking to that networking event is really difficult. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, I should have just put pumps on, or, you know, so I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's the best bit of advice that you've ever been given then on this business journey so far or previous? What's the best bit of advice that you've ever been given?
I think there's been quite, I've worked on a freelance basis for a menopause clinic, and the lady who runs that clinic has been my mentor, and she's given me lots of different tips along the way. One thing that I've taken from sort of modelling her journey, if you like, is writing a book, which, you know, when you said about the biggest challenge, I suddenly thought that should have been the answer to that question.
It is a challenge, but a very worthwhile challenge.
But I think, you know, having like, you know, something out there that's a bit more accessible for people has definitely been one of the best pieces of advice from a business point of view, because, you know, what I do is very much behind closed doors, working with clients, whereas the book is something that can kind of, you know, showcase that knowledge, but also help people in a way that's...
Everyone needs to know more about the book now, Rachel. title. We need to know where they can get it. Where we can get it. Exactly what your plans are for the book moving forward.
So it's called The Burnout Bible, and it's how to combat fatigue and emotional overwhelm naturally. The book will be published on the 18th of July.
It's my birthday.
Which is your birthday, so 2 good days.
I know what I'm going to get Claire for her birthday now.
You're going to end up with about 20 copies. I wonder if anyone's thought of this. Love it. Do you want a signed one, Claire?
Yes, thank
you. So yeah, we're at the stage now where we're gathering endorsements. It's all being typeset. The illustrations have all been drawn that are going into the book. So it's starting to kind of look like a book now, as opposed to like just a giant dissertation, basically. It was like a big massive Word document. So it's getting exciting. It's available internationally, so the publishers distribute it to all kind of English language countries, and then eventually, if there's demand, then we might get it translated and things like that.
When there's demand, you're going to get it translated.
I used to work in Germany, so I might just kind of like poke up some people there to kind of like maybe buy it and create the demand.
Work in Germany.
There you go.
There you go. LLIB on tour.
Love that.
A friend actually messaged me the other day. He was out in Australia, and she's like, "I've pre-ordered my copy, and I can't wait for it to arrive." And I was like, "That's so surreal that it's winging its way like to these different places." So.
And what do you hope to achieve with the book?
World domination.
Obviously, yeah.
Yes. But, coming down from that, I think the main thing is to kind of increase my reach and just kind of get the message out there and help people that my service ultimately is private healthcare, and that's not always accessible to everybody.
Definitely not.
So the book is, a really kind of like low cost way of giving people as much information as possible to kind of help people in a kind of, it's in a almost like an arm's length way. But if I can just share the message of what's out there, then to help people, then I will have just done my job.
And where can people see that message then? So share your socials with our audience.
So the website is www.re-nutrition.co.uk, and I'm on Instagram mainly at re_nutrition. I'm on Facebook a little bit, and I'm also on TikTok, which is very exciting. I'm having a bit too much fun on there. I think I need to make it a bit more professional.
And you're quite famous on TikTok now with this wave.
I know.
But you do.
My friend pointed out that every time I started doing one, I started doing this little
Can you do the wave for us now?
So she started going like this little thing. So she said, it could be your little thing. So now every TikTok starts off with like a little...
It's a little wave.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like the Queen.
Why not?
The
Queen. I know. Our most inspirational woman.
Yeah.
So we've done the best bit of advice. We've done the biggest challenges you've faced. We've talked about the book, but we have not talked about...
Oh, here we go again.
I know.
This is the one.
This was actually my idea. This was an idea that I was like, this will be great. It'll be great for social media. I am massively regretting this.
I'm only one.
Please, Rachel, don't call me feral like Maggie O'Carroll did. Please. The head.
It's only one nil. You'll get over it. You can cancel yourself out of it. So, Rachel.
I hate conflict, guys. This is really uncomfortable.
No, there's no conflict as long as you pick the right choice. As long as you pick the right choice.
The right answer. Okay.
So, she does leave the tea bag in.
We have 2 ways to make a cup of tea. Mm-hmm. And Claire makes it by putting the tea bag in the cup, pouring the water on.
Oh, you make it sound so exotic.
Pouring
the water on. Actually, Rachel... Actually, I pop my tea bag in my mug and then I pump my tap.
Because she's got one of those
and it
posh
goes
ones.
And it fills the water up, and then I give it a little stir, make sure it's the right, and then I add my milk in and then take my tea bag out and place it in the bin. When
Ultimately,
I get that right
Rachel,
colour.
the tea bag touches the milk. I make it whereby the tea bag must never ever touch the milk in the cup at the same time. If you were to make a cup of tea...
No.
Which way?
No.
Would you
no.
Really leading way.
No. How do you make your tea?
Thank
you. trying to get another point, wasn't she? How do you make your cup of tea?
Yeah,
To be honest, the concept of milk touching hot water completely freaks me out.
Oh, really?
So I think I'm going to I think I'm probably not going to land anywhere near you guys, and you're going to be like, right, you're never coming back.
We're going to need a new score.
So I never really used to drink tea until recently because it wasn't my cup
of tea.
But then so now I drink Chinese whole leaf tea, and I don't make it with milk, so I would make it in a little tea pot, with like a strainer in it, so the leaves just stay in there, and then the water just kind of infuses. So it's not really. I know you really want me to.
So you don't have a tea bag, or you don't have milk.
I have to say, if I'm going to comment on this, as a child, I used to get asked all the time to make cups of tea for my mum and dad.
And how would you make that, Rachel? How would that be made?
Take the tea bag out before putting the milk in.
Yeah, but that's not a point. That's not a point.
That's
not a point. It's not a point because Rachel doesn't have milk.
Thank you, Rachel. You have been an incredible guest today. We have loved having you with us today, and we cannot wait to read the book all about
Enjoy your green tea. Can I just see your tea, Rachel? You have got green tea with no milk, so that can't be fair. We actually need a Claire, Cal, and green tea now. So Rachel, you are the first point on the green tea.
And you can just say Claire, Cal, and others.
There you go. We'll just call it the others.
The others. I'll happily sit in the others, and I don't have to make a decision. I'm nicely on the fence.
No, it's okay, Rachel. You made your decision, and the audience heard that loud and clear. And that will be the end of today's podcast. It has been wonderful that you have joined us. We've loved having you with us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, come and see who will be next on the couch, spilling the tea with us. Claire's gone on a blooper. Spilling the tea with us over at Spill the Tea with LLIB. Snort the tea with LLIB.
Oh, cheers.